We used to live in a world that was dominated by America, but governed by international agreements. But now, that's breaking down.
We reject the ideology of globalism.
The world's great states are asserting their power and making their own rules.
Philippine military aircraft, I'm warning you again. Leave immediately.
And so who controls what territory matters more and more. Which means we're going to need to know about geopolitics. But what has all this got to do with this long-dead Victorian geographer? You might not think it to look at him, but Hallford Mkinder came up with an idea that has helped shape geopolitics for decades, and is back at work again today. In 1904, in this building in London, Mkinder set out a new theory. He drew on geography and political history to argue that something had happened that could transform the world. Out at sea, Britain's Royal Navy ruled the waves, which was crucial to a small island with a huge empire. But Mkinder thought all this faced a new threat. He focused in on what he called the Heartland of Euro-Asia. This began in the farmlands of European Russia and swept east for thousands of kilometres all the way across the steppes of Central Asia and on to the forests and plains of Siberia, all rich in untapped resources, timber and coal and minerals. Now that the railway was reaching right across this vast landscape, one great power could master this territory and its riches, and the empire of the world, he wrote, would then be in sight. 15 years later, after the First World War, statesmen gathered at the peace conference at Versailles to redraw the world's borders, spread democracy and end war forever. But Mkinder thought that to do that they had to face up to geographical reality. If not, he feared, they would leave the way open for Russia or Germany or both to dominate the heartland and turn it into a huge military base. From there, that heartland power could build an unbeatable fleet, defeat British sea power, and finally dominate Eurasia plus Africa, what he lumped together as the world island. All that meant that Germany and Russia had to be kept apart. So now Mkinder rushed his theory out in a book called Democratic Ideals and Reality. He wrote that each statesman at the talk should have a cherub on his shoulder, whispering this warning.
Who rules East Europe commands the heartland. Who rules the heartland commands the world island. Who rules the world island commands the world.
No one listened, except in defeated Germany itself. In Munich, another geographer, a war veteran called Karl Haushofer, was devouring Mkinder's work. He feared and hated the victorious British Empire, which he saw as a world-strangling octopus. So Haushofer twisted Mkinder's heartland theory from a warning into a strategy. His humiliated country could form a grand alliance with Russia and Japan and hack at the tentacles of British sea power. This intrigued one of Haushofer's students, another veteran called Rudolf Hess, who was a member of a new party, the National Socialists. In 1923 they tried to seize power. Hess went to jail, and Haushofer travelled out to tutor him there, and his fellow prisoner, the Nazi leader, Adolf Hitler. By 1933, the Nazis were in power.
The war of nerves moves a stage further.
And then, in 1939, the Nazi foreign minister and his Soviet opposite number shocked the world by signing a non-aggression pact. Haushofer was delighted. This, he thought, was the birth of the great German-Russian land power he'd dreamed of. Hot on the heels of the news about the pact, the New Statesman magazine published an article which claimed to show how the Nazis had taken their geopolitical plans via Haushofer from Mkinder. Whether or not this was really true, the idea that Mkinder had inspired the pact went viral in America. Life magazine ran a major story, mapping out Mkinder's ideas for its readers, explaining how his concepts were being used by the Nazis and were something Americans need to study. And the star foreign correspondent Dorothy Thompson of the New York Herald Tribune had been doing just that.
They would have a land base of such proportions that they could rapidly outbuild all the rest of the earth in sea power.
We can easily close all the ports of this enormous world island to the British fleet one by one.
And then Hollywood weighed in too. This short film dramatised Haushofer's meeting with Hess.
You should be associated with a man of action. A friend of mine, in fact. A man I would like very much for you to meet.
It cast Haushofer as the evil genius running a vast institute for geopolitics that was supposedly behind the Nazis' plan for destruction.
With unlimited funds at his disposal, Haushofer presently had over 1,000 employees. Responsible only to Adolf Hitler,
Haushofer actually fell out with Hitler in 1938.
Hitler's step-by-step plan for world conquest can be summarized this way. Conquer Eastern Europe, and you dominate the heartland.
And in this propaganda film, produced by the great director Frank Capra, Makinder's geopolitics become the whole basis of Nazi aggression.
Conquer the world island, and you dominate the world. That was a dream in Hitler's mind as he stood at Nuremberg.
This is a rare opportunity for you. Not every girl is invited to study geopolitics at the university.
By this time, in America, geopolitics had become another word for Germanic fanaticism. This movie, attacking Nazi indoctrination of teenagers, was a huge hit. Our German-American heroine is trapped in the Reich, and what finally drives her to denounce Nazism? Being offered training in geopolitics.
Unfortunately, Dr. Graf, I must decline the honor.
What did you say, Fräulein Müller?
I said I don't want any part of the diseased new world you're planning for mankind.
In 1947, Mackinder died, but his ideas lived on and still play out in the world even now. Find out how in Part 2.